Good morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brooms as always. G Dimples 66. Morning to you. Let's see this thing here. Right. Let me see, where is everybody on my YouTube today? I know today is Pan Day. So, but I don't think everybody went down to the Savannah. Even if they did, tickets for this event seems to be more elusive than CIC all inclusive. Truth Speaker 27, morning. Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning, sir. Proud to be Trini, morning. Anon, morning to you. Ruth Trude, Carol Boyce, Annette Beard, morning, guys. Roxanne, YouTube has given me some problems this morning. Ever so often it does that. Jennifer Nicholas, Riri, morning to you. Dwayne Peters, morning, sir. Natalie F, morning to you. Real Raga, Earl Turpin. Carlos Fornilio, my friend, morning. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning. Pauline, Gillan Jackson, hi Gillan. Christian Damani, Dexter Thwaites, good morning to you. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Andy, morning to you, sir. Ruckman Gangadine, morning, Ruckman. Neil Francois, always present, morning, sir. Deborah Duranti, morning, Deborah. Ashton Clark, morning, sir. Angela Richards, morning, Angela. Nadia Lewis Dixon, morning. Kenneth Gabriel, morning to you. Jennifer Dorset, morning, Jennifer. Morning, Diane. Angela Marcel Figaro, morning. Hi, Judy. Jonathan, morning to you. Shireen Jack. Monica Borrell, Angie Andrews, morning, guys. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor. First Lady Marcia Keegan. Sarah Richards, morning, James, morning, guys. Dandy Sandyford, morning, Dandy. Emmeline, morning. Kathy Ann, morning to you. Morning, Carol. Alison Boyce, morning, Alison. Morning, Eva. Andrew Horden, morning to you. Taylor Alain, morning. Veronica Jack. Daniel Knights, morning, sir. Marlene Santana, morning, Marlene. Garth Sloan Seal, good morning to you, sir. Tammy Gray, Christopher Serret, Donna Seeley, Phyllis Antoine, good morning to all of you guys. Builder Boys Construction Services, morning to you. Sandra Watson, morning, guys. Right. So apologies again for the late start, but YouTube was giving some challenges. So let me just jump on here. Morning, Donna. Donna, I did not see you. Apologies. Donna Seeley, Madonna De Beek, Angela Richards, Alison Samuel. Morning, Alison. Deborah Edgehill, Maria Batiste. Morning to you. Shari Bartholomew. Morning, Shari. Akira Thompson. Morning, Akira. Seychelle Lambert. Morning to you. Arlene Stewart. Morning. So let me jump into it one time. Yeah, so I went out and I got my Sunday Express. So from time to time I visit the Facebook pages of some of the UNC MPs, and I just wanted to touch again on this post that several of them are sharing. I told you all about with this claim that the government would have deregistered some 60,000 businesses and so on, and telling people to remember that. And I saw Khadija Amin also shared it, despite the fact that it was shared by Rudal Munilal and it was debunked. In fact, I saw Builder Boys would have put out something on that, giving a detailed explanation as to which I would have read for you guys, about what are the circumstances under which this deregistration would have taken place. And again, she too would have gotten some licks for posting that nonsense. And when it is that you have to depend on getting votes based on misinformation, subterfuge, propaganda, it's unfortunate, and it tells you where their position are. Khadija Amin, who isn't even sure as to where her political future will lie, since she was screened, almost 2 months ago or so, and is yet to know if it is she will get the nod for that particular seat. Because we know we hear other names being called, like Vasan Bharat, and names like Prakash Ramadan and so on. But Prasad Bisasa this week said that screening for that particular seats is closed, and therefore any rumors. But you know how they do things. Your nominations closed in April of last year, and what happened? People are being screened who did not submit any nomination papers. You're just pulling people out of a hat because you're desperate for persons to sanitize the party to make it look as if you're legit. But we know that you're not. And just as I predicted, Ralph Maraj would not have spoken to the issue of the latest amended charges, if we want to call it that, against Rudal Munilal, nor has he commented on Mrs. Prasad Bisessa's statement with respect to that matter, claiming that it is racially motivated. And she has been getting some licks for that and continues so to do. Several people have spoken on the issue. But there are some people who have made mention, and I want to stress how disappointed I am. Let me touch first on Makila Pandey. Because while she spoke to the issue, she didn't make mention of Mrs. Prasad Bisessa, right? Which I found to be just now. So let me just read what Ms. Pandey put out yesterday. The Patriotic Front stands unwavering in its condemnation of the recent racially charged comments that seek to divide the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But she didn't say racially charged comments from whom. Our nation was forged in the fires of unity, where people of every race, creed, and background came together to build a land of peace, progress, prosperity. Any attempt to undermine this unity is an attack on the soul of our republic. Trinidad and Tobago is not a nation of division. We are a people bound by shared struggles, triumphs, and dreams. The politics of race and fear have no place in our democracy. We call on every citizen, regardless of political affiliation, to reject these poisonous tactics and to stand proudly as one people under one flag. The Patriotic Front remains steadfast in its mission to build a country where every citizen is valued, respected, and heard. We will never bow to the forces of division. Together, let us stand united and resolute in defense of our national motto. Together we aspire, together we achieve. This is our home, this is our pride, this is our Trinidad and Tobago. Let unity, not division, light our path forward. The fact that she failed to call out Mrs. Prasad Bisessa by name, to me, is very unfortunate, right? Because it's apparent what you're trying to do. You don't want to call her name because you're hoping to be able to get some of the UNC voters, and you don't want to upset them by calling out their leader by name. So you put out this generalized statement because you felt you needed to say something. Well, at least I give you some points for the fact that you recognize what Prasad Bisessa is trying to do, and you felt you needed to debunk it. So Makila doesn't support this position by Prasad Bisessa that this lawsuit involving Rudal Munilal is racially motivated, that it is an attempt by the PNM to say that all East Indians are thieves. But still, you needed to go a step further and call her out because other persons have done so. So we have also Gary Griffith, who also put out a statement yesterday as well. And I verily believe that Mr. Ralph Maraj will not do so, right? He will not. So this week, the attack is on Coleman Burt. And again, misinformation and inaccuracies, but what are you going to do? You're trying to tell me that coming to talk about Mr. Embut and the Auditor General, a matter that happened, that issue that has been dealt with a couple weeks now, but you rehash that and you want to give that more prominence, then here it is that we have the very same Privy Council that you referenced would have made a judgment or with respect to this appeal by the contractors. Throw it out in the same way. They didn't even want to hear anything from the lawyers representing the contractors. There was no need to, right? But let me just read what Mr. Griffith has put out. The NTA condemns the UNC's accusation of racial profiling against the state's civil case in the EMBD matter because it infers that the TTPS's criminal matter is also racially motivated. So he has reinforced that there is a police matter into that, right? The National Transformation Alliance unequivocally condemns the reckless and irresponsible use of race as a political tool to divide our nation. While the civil case the government has chosen to pursue in the EMBD matter may seem like a battle between two political parties, which is not my concern. That's a criminal case by the TTPS. This means that when she says it is racially profiling, it is racial profiling and racial bias behind the civil matter, she also indicts the TTPS criminal investigation. So again, he too failed initially to mention Mrs. Pasadi's sister's name. It is important to remind the public that while the government is pursuing a civil matter in the EMBD case that involves senior members of the opposition, there was and still is a parallel criminal investigation on the exact matter by the TTPS. Mr. Griffith should do well to remember this is not the government that is pursuing this. EMBD is pursuing this, right? The EMBD is a registered company, and under the Companies Act, right, they have a fiduciary responsibility to pursue this. This is not the government. This is unlike what happened with Petrotrin when they went after Malcolm Jones, something that I've always challenged and I question why they went after Malcolm Jones and not the board of Petrotrin, because Malcolm Jones could not make a decision of that magnitude on his own, notwithstanding the fact that he was an executive president or executive chairman. Sorry, he could not have made that decision on his own, and it was always maintained that it was a board decision. In fact, one of the things that would have contributed to the decision to withdraw the matter against Mr. Jones was the witness statements of two other board members that proved critical when WGTL, in the arbitration matter between WGTL St. Lucia, which was the other partner in that whole arrangement with respect to the gas to liquids plant, and Petrotrin, which Petrotrin won. And the arbitration court, the International Arbitration Court, would have awarded costs and monies to Petrotrin. And they found that the error, the reason for the failure of the venture lay with WGTL. And Mr. Jones had intended to utilize that judgment as well as the witness statements of Mr. Chantak and Ms. Batiste, I think it was, in his defense. And it is to be reminded that the two lawyers who were consulted by the government, by Anand Ramlogan, to whom Petrotrin ceded their fiduciary responsibility in the management of that case, which was in breach of the Companies Act, Section 66, and I think Section 90 or 99 of the Companies Act, that when they ceded that responsibility to the Attorney General, Petrotrin was in fact in breach of the law. So it is EMBD who is spearheading this matter, not the government, right? So we need to make that elusively clear, okay? But just touching back on that issue with Malcolm Jones, that the two witness statements, which ultimately contributed to the decision to withdraw the case, were not provided to Mr. Vincent Nelson and Russell Martino, who were the two attorneys that were consulted for an opinion as to whether or not they felt that a case against Malcolm Jones would have been successful. Both attorneys are on record as having said that had they received those two witness statements as well as the arbitration judgment, that their advice to the government would have been different. That they would have advised that Mr. Jones would have had a very good case, right? A good chance of winning the matter had they been provided with those two pieces of information, which was only provided after the People's Partnership lost government and the PNM came in, and then subsequently that information was provided to Mr. Nelson, who reviewed it and would have given that opinion. And I believe, if I recall correctly, the Newsday would have interviewed Mr. Martino, who also indicated that he was not made privy to that information, which was critical to the opinion that was originally given. And so the question must be asked, why did Mr. Ramlogan withhold that information? Because as a seasoned attorney, I don't think at the time when that case was initiated, he was Attorney General. He was a senior counsel yet. I don't think they had given themselves silk yet. But why was that information withheld? Because he ought to have known the significance of that, again, as a seasoned attorney. So was that information deliberately held? And from all accounts, it seems that is what happened, right? So that you could get a particular outcome. So you provide just the information that you as a seasoned attorney would view and know that this package of information that I'm submitting here is sufficient to get the opinion that I want, which is to go ahead and sue. Even if, because it was reported during the course of the matter that Mr. Jones had requested, had provided or done a freedom of information request to get the judgment and also to get the witness statements. The same witness statements which the UNC told us would prove that the decision to withdraw the matter was political. And they went all the way to the Privy Council to compel the government and Petrotrin to provide them with the witness statement. And when it is that the Privy Council found in their favor, Dr. Ali said this matter has gone too far. Enough court matters and enough money spending on lawyers. And he instructed the then Minister of Energy, Franklin Khan, to direct Petrotrin to release the witness statements to the UNC, which they made a whole issue about for over a year. Since June 2019, they received those 2 witness statements, which for months they were telling the population would prove that the decision to withdraw the Malcolm Jones case was political. They used the lucky Rabbi Balgo bin Maraj to go all the way to the Privy Council. And when it is that the witness statements were provided to them, that was the last we heard of that. The last we saw, Balgo bin Maraj go into the Integrity Commission claiming that he talked to his lawyers, and the lawyers say that they have a case and he's going to drop off these documents to the Integrity Commission for an investigation. And after that, we heard nothing more about those 2 witness statements that they told us, yes, when those 2 witness statements would prove that it was political. They never held a press conference. They never mentioned it on any of the Monday Night Forum or any other meetings. That matter just went dead. UNC just went quiet after that. And I remember that time I was on 91.9 and there used to be a caller by the name of Long Circular who was strong UNC. Used to be calling in. And when Long Circular called in one time to express when the witness statements were released, even though he was a strong supporter of the UNC and used to advocate for the UNC, he expressed his disappointment that after the UNC made this big thing about these 2 witness statements and it would prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that the decision to remove the Malcolm Jones case or withdraw the case was political, that they heard nothing further, and that he wanted to see the matter come to a conclusion, and he heard nothing about it. And he was disappointed. So it was all part of the rules. They knew they needed to get a particular opinion to pursue Malcolm Jones, regardless of the outcome. Millions of dollars would have been spent and millions would have been paid in kickback from legal fees, regardless of the outcome, whether they won the case or not. And I remind you as well, in respect of that matter, the very same legal team that Anna Ramlogan hired to prosecute Malcolm Jones is the same legal team that Faris Al-Rawi maintained when he became Attorney General. Only one person gave back the brief, who was Varun Debadine. Varun Debadine of Prison Gate fame. He's the second of the 2 lawyers who are supposed to be under police investigation with respect to Prison Gate copying and pasting witness statements of prisoners claiming that they were abused and looking to make money off of the state. Right? I think Debadine had some issues, he and Faris had some issue, whatever, and he gave back the brief. But all the other attorneys, including Gerald Ramdeen, had no issue with advising the government to proceed and withdraw the Malcolm Jones case. But whenever that issue comes up, there's never any discussion about that part. That is the same legal team that Ram Logan hired, is the same legal team that gave advice to Petrotrin to go ahead and withdraw the case. Right? I just thought I would make mention of that. Okay, but coming back to Mr. Griffith. Right. Yeah. It is important to remind the public that while the government is pursuing a civil matter in the EMBD case that involves senior members of the opposition, there was and still is a parallel criminal investigation on the exact matter by the TTPS. There are also investigations into live sport and one involving a person seen as a bag carrier for a senior politician. Who is he referring to here? Of course, we know it is only one bag carrier we recall there being for a senior politician, and that was the Member of Parliament for Princestown, Barry Padarat. So it seems that issue that was raised in 2020, since 2020, where he was interviewed by Mark Bassant with respect to certain transactions that he is alleged to have undertaken while he was the bag carrier, such as the establishment of a business with his mother, where he would have received millions of dollars in contracts from the then government. And I asked the question, was there any recusals when these contracts were given his proximity to the then Prime Minister? Was there any conflict of interest? Particularly where we would have read that he would have, and his mother's company would have received contracts where their bid was higher than everybody else's. And in some instances, some of the other bidders were companies that had years of experience in handling these matters and would have bid lower. But somehow, Mr. Padarat and his mother would have successfully gotten those contracts to the tune of millions of dollars, some of which it is alleged he attempted to hide in his mother's bank account and also attempted to hide in her life insurance policies. So based on what Mr. Griffith is saying here, from his knowledge as Commissioner of Police, that there is also an active investigation into Mr. Padarath. Why it is taking so long is beyond me, because we've arrived at yet another election cycle, and we first learned about this in the last election cycle, right? So a whole election cycle has come, and yet still Mr. Padarath has not faced charges, and what we are being told here is that he is still the subject of a police investigation. I personally oversaw these matters as Commissioner of Police based on credible evidence. This is Gary Griffith saying that, right? Credible evidence, and conducted with the full cooperation of the Office of the DPP. This means there was enough information and evidence to warrant the investigations. So contrary to the utterances of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa that this is another PNM witch hunt and propaganda and smear campaign, Mr. Griffith is telling us, based on his intimate knowledge as Commissioner of Police, having personally spearheaded these matters, that he could tell you this has nothing to do with the PNM. The hypocrisy of her claims is also glaring, because when similar investigations by the TTPS were conducted into individuals affiliated with other political parties, including high-ranking members of the PNM, no such allegations of racial bias were made. The public will recall the investigation into Roger Kewal Singh and a high-ranking member of the PNM, as well as investigations into the dealings of Camille Robinson Regis, Marlene MacDonald, and even Prime Minister Keith Rowley. And it's interesting he mentioned here the name Roger Kewal Singh, because Mr. Kewal Singh is one of the attorneys representing, I think, one of the contractors who is defending themselves, or who is being defended in this same matter involving EMBD, right? Why no outrage then about Kewal Singh? Why no accusations of the TTPS targeting those of Afro descent? Is it because it suited her purpose? Even more amazing is the fact that Kamla Prasad Bisesa was exonerated for the email gate and plant-like substance matters at her home by the same TTPS, which, if they had an agenda to target Indians or even members of the opposition, would surely have seen her demise. This did not happen because the investigations were unbiased and followed the available evidence. This is why the attempt to now frame legal scrutiny as racial targeting only serves to inflame tensions and mislead the public, all in the name of potentially rallying a political base. I call on all political leaders to exercise responsibility and integrity in their public statements and to cease the dangerous practice of using race as a shield against legitimate legal proceedings conducted by the TTPS. Trinidad and Tobago's institutions and our democracy must not be sacrificed for political gain. Right? It's interesting. We've not heard from the other men and women of letters who normally have plenty to say, who would normally have an opinion, who would normally write an article in the newspaper, or persons to whom the media would normally run for comment first. Where is Hamid Ghani? What is his opinion on this? Where is Bishnu Raghunath, Shane Mohammed, Indira Sajiwan, right? This other one. What's her name again? Ram Prasad. Whereas, have they spoken on this issue? Has the media gone to them for comment? And if not, why not? Because Prasad Bisesa has now doubled down on her claim of racial targeting, to use Gary Griffith's term. So, when you're wrong, double down. That seems to be her new motto. People told you were wrong with respect to your utterances in your congratulatory message to Donald Trump to attack the former Biden administration. She doubled down. You put out a second press release and you list 20 things that you point to that says that the Biden administration was a disaster. What are your thoughts on what has happened over the last 3 weeks? What are your thoughts on that? But where are these people? The usual suspects who always have plenty to say when it involves the PNM. But all of them quiet now. Shh, don't say nothing. And the media calling them, the phone all of a sudden, they're busy, they can't take the call. They didn't see the WhatsApp messages apparently. But had it been, right? Because when the People's Partnership came into office in 2010, under the leadership of the same Prasad Bisesa, and they went after Malcolm Jones, and they went after the board of ETEC, all 6 or 7 members of which were persons of African descent. Did you hear anybody in the PNM come out and say that it was racially targeted? that the UNC, the People's Partnership, was going after these boards or these individuals because they are Africans. The other day when they went after Foster Cummings, when Jayanti Lakshmi Ramdial first produced the confidential memo from Special Branch. How she get that, we don't know. No, we do know. We said we suspect. Right? And they went after Foster Cummings, and Mark Basan went and dig up in the man business and got information, confidential documents from the credit union, went down to the man's house that under construction in Cuba and gone all inside the man's house and showing and all of these different things. Were there any claims on the part of the PNM that it was racial targeting? You hear anybody saying it's because Foster is a successful black man, that's why they're going after him? No. You heard the PM come out and make such ludicrous statements. Dr. Rowley's position has always been, let the chips fall where they may. If anybody engage in any wrongdoing, well, you stand on your own. Stand your bounds. Let the law take its course. He has said that on more than one occasion. That when he first came in 2015, he told his ministers that anytime you get caught in any wrong, stand up your hand in the cookie jar, you're on your own. Do not look for me to come to your defense. Right? Plain and simple. And the last 9 years, for all the things they love to say, we have any ministers being accused of being bag of money minister, as was the norm between 2010 to 2015. They don't like you to talk about that. We have any ministers being accused of having gone into politics, not being able to afford 2 doubles on a red solo, but today they own 5 and 6 houses. Have we heard any allegations of such against any minister in this administration in the last 9 years? Not even the UNC opposition have made those claims. Nobody can come and whisper in all ears to say this minister taking bribe and this minister taking kickback. In 9 years, nobody come and whisper in your ears to tell you that. But between 2010 to 2015, that was the norm. The norm, we were hearing that practically all the time. I ain't gonna call the names now about house building and who put in house in different people's name to try and hide the fact that they are the beneficial owners. It was commonplace between 2010 to 2015. In the last 9 years, we have not heard any such things. Right? Marlene McDonald's troubles would have started from when she was under Mr. Manning's administration. That is through the Calabar Foundation and so on. She has now gone to the great beyond. May she rest in peace. Right? But that preceded Dr. Rowley's administration. So anything that she was accused of, she was not accused of it while she served, of it having taken place while she was serving under Dr. Rowley's administration. Right? But who are the persons who are before the courts today? I've always maintained the majority of politicians in this country who have found themselves before the courts, from Prime Minister, come all the way down to Councillor, have all come from the United National Congress. From Pandey, Ram Logan, Ram Dean, you had in the days of Pandey again, the Sheriff Danraj Singh, who was charged for murder. You had persons who were part of the PNM, who were PNM ministers, left the PNM fold. Some of them claiming that they didn't take up our poverty. They went across to the UNC. For the whole time that they were in the PNM, the name never got called up in that. No. But as soon as the PNM demitted office in 1995, they jumped ship. You hear the name called up in thing. You had Brian Quaitom, who was Minister of Finance under the PNM. You had Russell Huggins, who was Minister of National Security under the PNM. He gone across there too. Name get called up in wrong stand. You had Carlos John. He wasn't PNM, but a former minister. He get caught up in thing too. A whole set of them. You have the councillor from Sangre Grande, who was the chairman of the finance committee, charged for taking bribe. Then you had Glenn Ram, who was the chairman of the Cuba Tabaqui Talparo Regional Corporation, who was himself charged for, again, soliciting and taking bribe. From the highest to the lowest of political offices in that party, they have people before the courts with matters before the courts. The PNM doesn't have such a track record, such that whenever the UNC needs to talk about PNM corruption, they always have to go back 50 and 60 years, 5 and 6 decades to talk about O'Halloran and Privat. Right? O'Halloran and Privat. But tell them, come forward now. Come forward. Let's talk about the Manning administration. Let's talk about the Chambers administration, if all they want to go back that far. Let us talk about the Rowley administration. They always have to say the PNM so corrupt and is the most corrupt, and this is the most corrupt administration. But not one minister has ever come before the court in the last 9 years No minister accused of being bag of money. No minister is being accused of soliciting kickbacks, right? But they most corrupt. But the party that had that for 5 years in office had plenty of that. So much so that the leader of that unholy alliance is holding the record and will forever hold the record as the prime minister who had to fire the most amount of ministers for wrongdoing. The most amount of ministers is Prasad Bisesa. That is bolted to her chest for perpetuity. And it doesn't matter how they twist it, turn it, screw it, whatever. They cannot change that fact. The supporters of that party. Right? So when the yam man, if he decide to jump on today to come and talk about yam, and more yam, his obsession with yam, that's something that you can't change. No amount of yam could change that. That is a fact. Right? But they want to tell you, put that back. Put that back so we could go, as if the first term wasn't enough. Because some of the same players are right there. And when it says that the supporters of that party could uphold the nonsense of Prasad Bisesa, right, trying to deflect, because she is insulting the intelligence of every non-UNC supporter. And the few UNC supporters who are not part of the cult, who are not prepared to pay obeisance to her simply because you're insulting our intelligence. Because when it is that I could go and pull up this judgment, right, from Justice Aboud, and I could read the particulars, I am no attorney, I don't have a legal background, but just basic common sense of reading some of these things, the text messages, the WhatsApp messages between Mr. Parmesa and Mr. Munilal, where it is that Mr. Parmesa is telling Mr. Munilal, well, look, I understand there's a shortlist for the position of CEO, but I would like to be favorably considered for the position. And then he ended up getting the work. So what about the other people, right, who probably had the qualifications, but we need somebody that who is pliable, somebody who is willing to do the bidding. So we give him the job, right? So the other people who legitimately thought that maybe there was just somebody better than us who got the job. Now we come to learn it wasn't that you all were inadequate, you know. It was simply because, well, Mr. Parmesa wanted the work. He reached out to the minister. He had a link that you didn't have, and they saw that he could serve a purpose, and so they put him there so that he could serve that very purpose. But these are the people who love to talk about proper procurement and doing things above board. But let me get into it, right? Let me get into it here. Where is it? So, MP Ragobar has decided that he is not going to be screened by the UNC, right? He says he is not prepared to be screened by people who have questions to answer before the court and so on. Let me see if I get this here. Where is it? So he put out a detailed statement. And Prasad Bisesa said, who cares? Who the hell really cares? Who is he? For 9 years, he stood on in the parliament. He did a waste of time. You know, time it. Yeah, for the 9 years, he didn't realize. So for the first 5 years, he didn't realize he was a waste of time. So you give him a second chance to serve another 5 years is a waste of time. Okay. That speaks lots about your judgment. Why I refuse to be screened by Kamala Prasad Bisesa. It is with deep disappointment that I announce I will not participate in the UNC's screening process for re-election as a Member of Parliament for Komoto Manzanilla. After careful reflection, I can no longer align myself with a party that has abandoned its principles, rewards mediocrity, shields those accused of wrongdoing, and punishes integrity. This is Ragobar saying this, right? A man who has been in the belly of the beast for the last 9 years, 9.5 years. This is no PNM person saying this, right? This is someone who has contested an election for the UNC in the last 2 elections, and he was successful, and he was there, he was part of the parliamentary caucus and everything. He is telling you this. I refuse to submit myself to a screening committee that includes individuals currently charged with wrongdoing, embroiled in court cases involving management of public funds or mismanagement of public funds at the EMBD, allegedly linked to gang activity, and even one individual who has serious allegations of human trafficking to answer. So he references here the matter of EMBD. So apparently, Rai, who is an East Indian, doesn't think that this matter, this civil suit against Rudal Munilal and contractors, is an attempt by the PNM to smear the UNC as, or the party and the supporters, as being all India and its teeth. Serving my constituents has been the greatest privilege of my life, but I can no longer serve under a leadership that prioritizes personal loyalty over public service, a leadership that stifles dissent, rejects accountability, and that transformed the UNC from a political party into a personal cult devoted entirely to the worship of Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Last year, when I voted in favor of the whistleblower legislation to protect public funds, particularly within institutions like the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, I was met with hostility, alienation, and silence. This legislation was about basic accountability, yet accountability is not welcome in Kamla's UNC. This is Rai Ragbir saying this. Under the leadership, the UNC has become a hollow shell, driven by divisive rhetoric, empty theatrics, and relentless internal purges. This is no longer the party founded by the late Basdio Pandey. Kamla's UNC does not tolerate independent thought. Dissent is met with smears, backroom sabotage, and expulsion. Instead of building a team based on competence, she has surrounded herself with sycophants, yes men, and yes women whose only qualification is slavish devotion. Kamla has allowed party messaging to be shaped by conspiracy theories, attacked a former US president in one of her many unhinged press releases, and promoted racial dog whistle, like the term Oreo. She has further degraded the party by embracing reckless social media troll Philip Edward Alexander. There are no, or rather, these are not actions of a serious leader. These are the desperate tactics of someone clinging to power at all costs. Rai Ragbir saying this, right? This is not Keith Rowley. Meanwhile, dedicated, competent members like Rushton Parry, Anita Haynes, Alain, and Dinesh Rambali, among the party's best and brightest, are being sidelined, while those accused of corruption, mismanagement, and even links to criminal elements remain untouched. The hypocrisy is staggering. How can the UNC demand accountability from the PNM while refusing to practice it internally? Kamla has led the UNC to 2 consecutive election defeats, each time refusing to take responsibility. Under her leadership, the party has offered no real solutions to crime, no vision for economic recovery, and no strategy to rebuild public trust. Instead, it has become a permanent opposition consumed by infighting rather than governance. While the country suffers, crime spiraling, institutions crumbling, the UNC under Kamla remains directionless, divided, and incapable of winning power. This is not the UNC that once inspired me to serve. The party founded by the late Basdio Pandey was built to unite, to govern, and to uplift the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, it is a rudderless organization hijacked by a leader who refuses to step aside despite repeated failure, a party that has forsaken its purpose in favor of self-preservation. My commitment to the people of Komuto Manzanilla remains firm. I will continue to fight for equality and justice, but I cannot do so under a UNC leadership that has lost its moral compass and is more interested in protecting the corrupt than serving the people. Sincerely, Dr. Rai Ragbir. This is Rai Ragbir saying this. Rai Ragbir, who has been sitting on the opposition bench for the last 9.5 years. And if somebody who has been on the inside is telling you all this, and you choose to ignore it, I'm talking about the PNM this and Rowley this and Aboud that, right? But he is telling you, I can't serve under Prasad Bisesa. Cannot. Even if they were to win, I am not prepared to hush my mouth, toe the line, do what I can to help the party win, and then serve under her. That is what he's telling you. She is not ready. Mr. Manning told you all she was not ready. She lacked the political experience, lacked the political acumen, lacked the political training, right? And would be a disaster if she were to become prime minister. He told you all that. But some people had a hearing, as the old saying goes, stick broke in the ears. So they needed to burn to learn. And some people seem hell-bent that the first burn that they get wasn't good enough, right? So they probably got first degree. Now they want to go to second and third degree burns to learn. So Rai is telling you this. So I think it's safe to say Rai would not be voting for whoever they put the UNC put up. because he is not supporting that. He is of the view that Kamala is not ready to be prime minister again, and the people that she's surrounding herself with, and those who would form her cabinet, not ready either. He not buying into this stupid talk about Rowley and the PNM trying to make it look like all Indian is thief. You know what's interesting? 3 of the lawyers, 3 of the 4 EMBD lawyers, right? One is a white man from England. The other 3 are lawyers of East Indian descent, right? 3 of the 4 EMBD lawyers are of East Indian descent. So she would have you believe that 3 East Indians take the job to promote a PNM smear campaign to make themselves, right, and persons who belong to their ethnic group, their family as well, to paint them as thieves. If that isn't an insult to your intelligence, I don't know what is. But you see, for Sadbi Sessa, this is nothing new, right? This has been a pattern of behavior. And I throw your minds back to 2 years ago or 3 years ago in the matter involving the member for Couva North, when allegations were rife about him and his involvement in human trafficking and prostitution, right? And the matter first came to a head when Dr. Rowley would have referenced a report coming out from the US State Department, which spoke to senior government officials being involved in human trafficking and prostitution. And when the question was put to Dr. Rowley by Rodney Charles, Dr. Rowley made the point, and again, I make the point that it wasn't that Dr. Rowley came and said this, that he didn't initiate it. He gave a response based on a question that was put to him by Rodney Charles. And he answered and he said that the senior government official referenced in that report comes from the UNC. And as a member, as the head of the National Security Council, he would have a little more information, right? So he was able to say that with confidence that it is a UNC MP. And then we had the whole back and forth that started with Sadbi Sessa saying, well, they said senior government official. Who is in government? The UNC is not government and whatever. Again, playing smart with foolishness. Because as a seasoned politician, she knows that when you speak about government, there are 3 branches of government. You have the executive, which is the cabinet, the legislature, of which she and the other 18 of them are part of, and then you have the judiciary, right? But she couldn't figure that out and wanted to play tit for tat and talk a nonsense, insisting that the report says senior government official and is the PNM in government. Resulting in a situation where we had to be schooled, had to endure the embarrassment of being schooled by Ambassador Candice Bond, who had to come out and clarify the situation to say that when the US references senior government officials, they are referring to members of, well, what they call Congress. So it doesn't necessarily mean the actual government, the party that is in power. When they speak about government and make reference to senior government officials in their report, it speaks to persons who sit in the parliament. So they consider government to be the executive and the legislature. But we couldn't figure that out. All the bright lawyers, senior counsel as they are, we needed Ambassador Candice Bond to come and school us, this third world nation who have difficulties in understanding what senior government official means. So she needed to come and educate us, right? To put an end to that. Because we couldn't figure it out for ourselves. And this is the kind of embarrassment that this woman subjected us to, because she refused to accept. Because even before mention was made of that report, on nomination day in 2020, when they were going to the various nomination offices to submit their papers and pay their $5,000 deposit, Sadbi Sessa was intercepted by members of the media who sought to question her based on a rumor that was circulating on that day that the member of parliament, that her candidate for Couva North was going to be replaced by one Rishi Tripathi, an attorney from South, because of the allegations in the public domain at that time that her candidate for Couva North had been fingered in being involved in human trafficking and prostitution. And her response was, I have confidence in all of my candidates. And her candidate for Couva North, who had been knocking on the door of electoral politics for years and who desperately wanted to get into the parliament, was given a free pass and allowed to go through, and he gets a safe seat, and he is there today, again, to serve as an embarrassment. And that is the type of people that they offer you. But I made mention just now, and I went back to that specifically. And I want to reference an article from the 26th of February 2023 entitled Human Trafficking Bacchanal. Devant. It's true in the UNC Kamla. Opposition leader, pathetic Ravi, not me. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just not. During Parliament on Friday, Naparima MP Rodney Charles questioned Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley about allegations made in the United States Department of State Trafficking in Persons report released in July 2022. The report placed TNT on the Tier 2 watch list, saying the country does not fully meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking, but is making significant efforts to do so. The report also charged that corruption and official complicity in trafficking crimes remain significant concerns inhibiting law enforcement action, and the government did not take action against senior government officials alleged in 2020 to be involved in human trafficking. Alleged in 2020, right? General election. Questioned by Charles on the allegation that senior government officials were involved in human trafficking, Rowley said the report was referring to members of the opposition. Rowley said if Charles wanted to go after his colleague, he could do so without the government's involvement. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar yesterday hit back, saying the report referred specifically to government officials and not members of the opposition. In a release, Persad-Bissessar said Rowley abused the cover of parliamentary privilege to make a complete fool of himself. Any primary school student could read the US report and understand the words senior government officials, she said. Persad-Bissessar noted that the report said the government took no action on the allegations, and she said nobody could believe or would believe that the government would take no action if the officials were UNC. Right? So she says a primary school student could read the report and understand the words senior government officials. Well, apparently she doesn't even have the understanding of a primary school student, because the fact that Candace Bond had to come out and say, well, hey, when we say senior government officials, we mean members of parliament. All right? So if you, whatever is your understanding, let me just clear it up. Your understanding is incorrect. Because in the US, they don't refer to the other party, the party that is out of office, as opposition. They don't use those terms, right? That is Westminster system terminology. They don't use that. So we don't hear them referring to the Democrats as the opposition in the United States. And it's a US report, so they know their language. So clearly, the one who really embarrassed themselves and made a complete fool of themselves, contrary to Persad-Bissessar, what she said was in fact Persad-Bissessar who made a complete fool of herself. And perhaps that is why, maybe why she had issues with the Biden administration, right? And probably had issues with Ambassador Candace Bond, who showed her up to be a complete dunce, despite the fact holding senior counsel title. But it goes on. Even as the UNC sought to distance itself from the allegations, former UNC Minister Devan Maraj claimed he had knowledge to back up Rowley's claim. Maraj alleged he was offered access to Venezuelan and Colombian prostitutes procured by officials in the UNC during his time in the party. He said human trafficking activities by UNC members was an open secret in the party. Maraj said, I wish to confirm that during 2010 to 2015, internal investigations headed by senior UNC officials investigated the allegations of human trafficking, and I can confirm that I assisted in these investigations. I can also confirm that the allegations were confirmed to be true and correct. I confirm this as particular individuals who now hold high office in the party on a regular basis provided a regular supply of Venezuelan and Colombian prostitutes to persons within and without the party. I myself was approached on several occasions to utilize the service, all of which I refused. Maraj alleged that no action was taken against those who were found to be involved in the criminal activity, as they were all close to the political leadership. The leadership then, as it is now, placed a premium on blind loyalty over everything else. Consequently, persons who were identified were not only actively protected, but subsequently promoted to the highest levels within the party and never penalized or punished. I find it offensive, vulgar, and obscene that a political party headed by a woman provides a refuge and safe haven for individuals who peddle in the illegal act of women as sexual commodities on the open market. That these same persons pontificate to the population on issues and are continuously shielded not only by the political leadership of the UNC, but every single member of the UNC bench, national executive, and other party officials who all know about this open secret but choose to remain silent. Maraj told the Sunday Express it was not the first time he has spoken out on the issue, as he pointed to news reports in a 2012 investigation into the alleged use of the PTSC facilities. Maraj was Minister of Transport at the time, while current Couva North MP Ravi Ratiram was the corporation's Deputy General Manager for Properties. Contacted yesterday, Ratiram distanced himself and the UNC from Maraj's claims. To my knowledge, I can affirmatively state that no member of the UNC is in any way associated to any criminal activities or individuals associated with human trafficking. Ratiram said it appeared that Maraj was singing from the same choir as Rowley and is peddling a PNM agenda of lies, deception, distraction, and attempting to once again mislead the population. So when did he attempt to mislead the population before, Ravi? And to what end? What purpose did he intend to achieve by lying? What purpose? The US report is very clear that it is a senior government official and at no time made reference to any opposition member. In 2020, Ratiram had addressed allegations circulating on social media of his alleged involvement with brothels. He categorically denied the claims, which he said had originated from a fake profile on Facebook. And he said then that the PNM was behind the falsehoods. Everything is always the PNM. David Lee, when he do each stupidness and buy the car for his partner, depriving you, the citizens, of hundreds of thousands and millions in taxes, right? Buy the car, use the privilege afforded to him as a member of parliament, allegedly to purchase a car for the use of his friend, who is himself a multi-millionaire and could have paid the money for the car. After he was interrogated by the police, arrested and charged, when he left the offices of the FIB, first thing he said to the media, PNM at its best, always blaming the PNM for their folly and wrongdoing. So I was just looking at Munilal's face as he stood behind Prasad Bisesa a couple of days ago, right? As she spoke her nonsense and doubled down and making this claim about Rachel dog whistling and so forth. And he standing behind her and he can't even look at the camera. It's like he looking off and he realized, hey, like they didn't believe in this boy. You know to yourself she lying. Because according to the submissions of the EMBD, right, even the most recent submissions, which speaks to the fact that millions of dollars were given by these contractors to persons affiliated to the UNC for the purpose of funding the 2015 election campaign, which was titled Kamla 2015. So you're trying to tell me that all this money went into, and we know the extent of that campaign. And they had all kind of paraphernalia. You had jersey and mug and all kind of thing with Kamla face on it. And she never asked where the money came from. All that money spending, and you never asked where did that money come from? So she is just as complicit. Just as complicit. Right? It's just that EMBD, which fell under Munilal, happened to be used as the conduit. But indirectly, she benefited from the monies as well. So she should be investigated as a co-conspirator. Because I highly doubt that conversations weren't had. I highly doubt that she wasn't concerned about, okay, how we funding the election and so on. And all the type of election campaign that they wanted to run. You weren't aware where the money came from? I'll probably saying, if I go down, all are we going down? All are we going down? Let me So that is just one example there, right? One example. Let us not forget, again, when she was Prime Minister, Stacey Rupnarayan wrote the letter to her, bypassing Suraj Rambachan, expressing to her concerns of the NIDCO board with respect to the QREP interchange and possible ministerial interference in respect of that project, possible bid rigging and so on. The board of NIDCO, right, didn't have confidence in the minister, the line minister, the senior minister, Rambachan. So they went to the junior minister and lodged their complaints and asked her to take it to the prime minister. And she did. She bypassed her line minister and wrote a confidential letter to Prasad Bisesa expressing the concerns of the board. And what Prasad Bisesa do, send the letter to Suraj and tell him you deal with that. The next thing we hear, they had a retreat in Tobago, and Stacey get her throat bust. She was removed from that ministry. And I think they had sent her, if memory serves me correctly, sent her back to the Ministry of Sport. Right? Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell, when she had concerns with respect to the payment of briefs, things that were taking place in the office of the Attorney General, which was unusual, outside of the norm. The rapidity with which these claims were being paid as it pertains to prison gate, prisoners who were suing, claiming that the police beat them and the prison officers beat them, and these were the injuries. And when it took a master of the court, several of these matters coming beforehand, she noticed the similarity in the witness statements and raised the issue. And when it was drawn to the attention of the DPP, Roger Gaspard, he reviewed. And even without a police file or a police investigation, he said he was of the unflinching view, just based on a cursory glance of the information that would have been provided by the master of the court. He was of the unflinching view. His words. But there's cause that a crime may have been committed and there's cause for serious police investigation. The DPP said that. He didn't need to see a police file in front of him. Just preliminary information based on the same thing that the master of the court saw. He was of the unflinching view. And in that, had it not been for procedure, he might have been ready to give instructions to charge people. But again, what did she do? She sent the letter to Ram Logan. The same Ram Logan that now Justice Donaldson Honeywell bypassed. And sent it straight to the Prime Minister for her to investigate. You send the letter to Ram Logan, tell him investigate himself to himself. Next thing we see some retraction written, unsigned, claiming to be a statement from Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell, but it was unsigned. Right? And then subsequent to that, she resigned today. She's a high court judge or an appellate court judge, I think. But this is the pattern of behavior of Prasad Bisesa. Rather than face the allegations frontally and ensure that you root out the corruption, you give the alleged perpetrators the opportunity to clean up their own mess so that you don't have to take responsibility. And when water more than flour, and you can't do anything, you can't do any more hiding and shielding, what do? You fire. It was the same thing when the allegation was made against Glenn Ramadar Singh by one Patricia Singh, who alleged that on 2 occasions or so she would have gone to his office seeking assistance to get an HDC house for herself and I think her disabled uncle and somebody else. And she was made to perform oral sex acts, right? And that she was fondled and groped, and that the individual minister would have put his hand down inside her blouse and all of these different things, all these claims she would have made, would have reported to the police, I think, and signed an affidavit. And Prasad Bisesa was inclined to do nothing until it was brought to her attention that the issue had been leaked, that the media had contacted Ms. Singh and gotten an interview, and that they were going to publish the story. And it was against that backdrop that she took the decision to fire Glenn Ramadar Singh. But had it not come out in the media, as it was reported, she was prepared to overlook that. Because her government had suffered enough embarrassment from scandal after scandal after scandal. And she couldn't afford any more. But when more than flour, and there was no longer any opportunity for her to hide it. She decided to take the high road and say, well, you know, I did this and I fired these persons when allegations came. Really? He was never cleared of that issue. But that didn't stop her from making him chairman of the Superior Regional Corporation after they lost office in 2015. In the 2016 local election, same man who had these allegations, you put him back into a position of power where he could again have opportunity and occasion to use his office, probably to satisfy his habit or alleged habit. Protect him and put him back in a position of power. The same thing with Anil Roberts. As an attorney, you must have known what would have happened if you came to the parliament and read the report, published it. You did that, paving the way for the men who are accused or who stand accused of wrongdoing in the live sport matter, for them to run to the court and claim that they were victims. They were not afforded due process. And the court found in their favor and said, yes, throw that report and do it over, but this time, give the men an opportunity to respond. Pattern of behavior that she has constantly engaged in. The same thing When it is the issue, the matter of the Piarco airport came up, not last year, year before, 2023, because of certain developments that were taking place with respect to the case in Florida, which her government refused to pursue the civil suit, which was pursued by this administration when they came in. It started under Mr. Manning. They won office in 2010, and for that 5-year period, the attorneys who were the U.S. attorneys who were dealing with the matter are on record as having told Faris Al-Rawi that despite their best efforts between 2010 to 2015 to get direction from then Attorney General Anand Ramlogan to proceed in this matter, they failed. They failed. No responses to emails and other forms of correspondence seeking direction on how to proceed. No indication as to how their services would be compensated and so on. So they just left that matter in abeyance. And had they won in 2015 and that situation continued, that matter would have been thrown out. But by divine intervention, the PNM was able to come back into office in 2015, right? Picked up the matter just in time before it became statute barred. And today, we stand to collect close to $1 billion or more in restitution for wrongdoing. But she wasn't interested in getting back that money. And she comes to tell you that that was a 23-year PNM smear campaign when it is that the DPP decided to drop the charges against Pandey. Because remember that Piarco matter has several different compartments. So the compartment that dealt with Pandey and stuff, the DPP decided to drop the charges because, as he said, some of the witnesses had moved on, some people forget, some people died, and all of these different things. And Prasad Bisasa jumped out herself and come and said, well, you know, that was a 23-year PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt, and the DPP dropping those charges exonerates the UNC. And then when it is the media now started to publish excerpts from the testimony of the inquiry into the Piarco airport, which prior to that had been suppressed because the advice of Mr. Lindquist and stuff to the DPP was not to publish the report so that it wouldn't go the way of the live sport report, right? And that where he was of the considered view that charges would be laid, that it would be best not to publish the report. But somehow the media got a hand on it and they were able to publish excerpts, damning excerpts, testimony which included that of Jolene John, who is now the deputy political leader of the UNC. Jolene John, who testified in that commission of inquiry and stated that the first meeting and the only meeting she attended of the interministerial committee that was handling that Piarco airport, her words, the greed was palpable. You could feel it. She said that one meeting she attended, the greed was palpable. You could feel it. She went to Mr. Pandey because she was so uncomfortable with what she had seen and heard in that meeting and told him he has a problem on his hands. And Pandey's response, according to her testimony, was, I am aware. It is a feeding frenzy, a milch cow. Jolene John, who is now deputy political leader of the UNC and hopes to be a minister in government later on this year, testified to that, but sat down in an audience and listened to Prasad Bisasa say that the Piarco airport matter was a 23-year PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. So basically, she was calling out Jolene John as a damn blasted liar. Basically telling you how indirectly the testimony that you gave, which corroborates the view or the position that was, according to Bob Lindquist, the greatest act of corruption ever perpetrated on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago by its government. Her testimony contributed to that. And you sit down there and clapping Prasad Bisasa, who basically calling you a liar by saying that that whole matter, there was no corruption in that. That was just a PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. But when it is more excerpts started to come out and was being published, and again, water more than flour, and she could not deny it. You know what she came and said on the platform? Well, that wasn't under me. That happened under Pandey. So don't blame me for that, right? That was a different administration, and my administration had nothing to do with that. So Pandey is the man to blame for that, eh? Blame for what? The same thing that you told us was a smear campaign and was untrue. But now when it is the testimony came out from persons of note and integrity, and it was, you realize how damning it was. You decide to pull out yourself and say, well, it's not me, don't blame me. It wasn't my administration. That airport didn't bill under me, that bill under Pandey. So throw Pandey under the bus. But you played an instrumental role in that administration, which is why Mr. Pandey chose you to sit as Attorney General to replace Ramesh Maraj, who he fired because Ramesh was going after corruption in that particular matter and other matters like the Incogen deal and other things that was taking place at the time. But the first act that she decided to carry out as Attorney General was to find a way to fire Bob Lindquist and to fire Carl Hudson Phillips, who were retained by her predecessor to investigate the Piarco matter. And in the space of 2 months, Mr. Lindquist was able to find sufficient information to paint a picture of graft, corruption, theft, bribery, bid rigging, you name it. Every single crime that they could have committed on that project was Mr. Lindquist found in the space of 2 months. 2 months, because he got his commission to engage in that activity 2 months before the general election. And in the face of that damning information, you coming in as Attorney General, you see the report and you're asking, so why is it an interim report? All that money he get paid, and why is it an interim report? Because he only had 2 months. And he made himself available, and he said, if after the election, whoever is the new Attorney General, if they wish to retain my services, I am available. She wasn't interested in retaining services. She was looking to find out how could I fire him and fire Carl Hudson Phillips and pretend as if this report doesn't exist. Pandey sat down on that report for months and did absolutely nothing. The only thing he did with respect to treating with that was when Jolene John came to him and told him about the Interministerial Committee and the palpable greed and what else was taking place there. And as opposed to appease her, he indicated that he was going to disband the Ministerial Committee, which he did. And that was it. But nothing else happened. Right? Just to satiate and appease Jolene John, probably so that she wouldn't resign because she wanted no part of that. He needed the project finished. And she didn't want to be a part then when she still had some scruples and integrity. Didn't want to get her reputation sullied. So rather than risk her resigning and then drawing more attention because the media will want to know she just got appointed, why is she resigning and so on. So let me get rid of the Interministerial Committee. And things continued. And then they eventually lost office, and we know. All right? But again, pattern of behavior by Prasad Bissessa to try and cover up wrongdoing. She's an upholder of wrongdoing. She should never hold the position of Prime Minister in this country again. But let me give you all a little bit of what it is she's claiming is a PNM attempt to make all East Indians look like thieves. Let me get this here. So, right. Just to give you all some. Yeah. So we know the contractors who have been named. We have Calco, we have Namalco, TN Ramnat, and so on. But that is just one of several instances of potential bid rigging, overpricing, whatever. So let me just touch on two quickly. I know some of you all have to go to your pan. WASA slashes Calco bill by 44 million. Article dated 10th of the 1st, 2021. The Water and Sewerage Authority slashed a whopping $43.7 million of a claim submitted by Calco for work undertaken for the authority. Calco had made a claim of $77.7 million for services and materials supplied to WASA. However, they refused to pay the sum as they discovered discrepancies in the invoices in relation to the conversion of cubic meters to tons and inconsistencies in the asphalt thickness. Let me see if I get this here right. Calco had initiated legal action against the state-owned authority for monies owed for 2 contracts awarded under the People's Partnership Administration. It's 2021. The authority played hardball, standing its ground. Standing ground. And stand your ground. Kamala says stand your ground. So WASA standing the ground. And refusing arbitration and insisted that the High Court determine the matter. Calco caved in on the eve of the trial. Here they say, Calco caved in on the eve of the trial and settled for the reduced sum, which was highlighted in the September 26 edition of the Sunday Guardian, headlined, WASA agrees to pay $34 million to Calco. So on the eve of the matter going to the High Court, all of a sudden, Calco say, I hear what it's really 77 million winners, but we got to take the 34. We're willing to drop off there to drop 43 million. You take the lesser figure. Now, if you know that your work is above board and you know these are legitimate invoices, why the hell would you give up $43 million just before the matter reached the High Court? That is the best place for it to be pleaded. And if you know you're in the right and your books in order and your invoices in order, and you could prove that the work was done and that the money is warranted, not only would you get the money, the judge might have awarded interest as well and costs, so that WASA would have had to pay your attorneys. So when it is, we can hear the head of Cartel saying, well, we didn't want to draw out the matter and, the money to be spent and wasted on legal and drawn out legal. I'm going to read it. The agreed figure was to be paid by WASA in two parts according to a July 2020 High Court order. Sunday Guardian was reliably informed that WASA issued a $20 million check dated July 24, 2020 as its first payment to Cartel, and a $14 million check dated October 14, 2020 was submitted as its final payment. Chairman of Cartel Group of Companies, Arvin Kalu, in a WhatsApp message to Guardian Media on September 22nd, stated that in the interest of avoiding prolonged and costly litigation, the matter was settled on the eve of the trial in an amount I am not at liberty to disclose. Why I didn't want to disclose that you were suing for 77 but take 34, and you feel pity, so you realize that people will want to know, well, why you give up 43 million? You do $77 million of work, but you're willing to take 34 for it? And you're just about to go to trial? But if that money, if those invoices are legit and that is legit money that you are owed, go full speed and get your money. What are you talking about? Costly litigation. Once you win, the court will award costs, and WASA will have to find the money to pay their lawyers and pay your lawyers too. And your lawyers would be happy to litigate this matter, because the longer the trial goes on, is the more money they make. And since it's WASA they're going after, well, they're billing high, so your lawyer's not going to tell you, let me settle. If you have a legitimate claim, no, they want money. They want to drag this thing out for years so that they could make more millions off of WASA and the state. But these lawyers come and tell you, yeah, let me settle on the eve of the trial, and you give up 43 million? Well, all right. Contracts given out under the PP. Same contractor who mentioned in this EMBD. We're going again. Another one. Where is it? So let me get this here. Right. EMBD reduces claims from 417 million to 47 million. 417 to 47. Let me get this one here. So another one of the companies that is mentioned in this lawsuit, Namalco, right? Where is it? So Namalco had sued EMBD for $1.2 billion. And where is it? Let me get it here. Amon noted a claim by Namalco Construction Services Limited for sums in excess of $1.2 billion, which EMBD refused to pay. He detailed on April 2022 judgment on this, saying the significant findings are that whilst Namalco originally claimed sums in excess of $1.2 billion against EMBD, Namalco has only succeeded in obtaining an award for $427 million. EMBD has filed an appeal against that award, but meanwhile has agreed by consent to pay $153 million to effect settlement of what it accepts is due to Namalco. Should EMBD's appeal be successful, it is anticipated that there will be further substantial reduction in the sums currently ordered to be paid to Namalco. So from 1.2 billion, it came down to 417 million. And even then EMBD said, get them 153, but we're still going after them. They named in this matter too. So let me get to the judgment now, right? That Prasad Bisesa said is merely, it have no truth in it. They're just going after Dr. Munilal because according to the supporters of their party, he's the best debater. The PNM afraid he too bad. When you see he gets on his legs to debate in the parliament, they'll be quaking in their boots, you know. They know what he coming with. The lion of our approach. When you hear he get up and he roar, they had to take cover, everybody ducking under the desk. Oh gosh, Munilal coming through, make way. Pussycat of our approach, they mean. Lion my foot. He wasn't looking like no lion when he stand up behind Pasad Bisasa what day it was though. Right? He should be the poster boy for Bijan and Waterworks. Justice Aboud rules an EMBD corruption case, Thursday, 6th of August, 2020, 4 days before the general election. Again, I point out to you the fact that the attorneys for these contractors and so on, and Munilal and them was basically saying, ask the judge not to publish the judgment until after the general election. Wonder why? At least 5 contractors will have to explain at the appropriate time the unusual patterns. This is Justice Aboud's words, the unusual patterns, oddities, and inconsistencies in 10 contracts with the EMBD for road rehabilitation works in 2015. On Thursday, Justice James Aboud dismissed the preliminary applications of the 5 contractors, TN Ramnath, Namalco, Calco, Mutilal Ramhit and Company, and Fides, which sought to have the EMBD properly particularize the facts against them so that they could fairly mount their defense or strike out the claims against them. So here what they were asking for. They were seeking to have the EMBD either properly particularize the facts against them so that they could fairly mount their defense or strike out the claims against them, right? What the EMBD submitted last week, the amended claims against Munilal, is the very thing that they went to court for. Or they went all the way to the Privy Council asking that they either compel the EMBD to give all them more information, because you're wondering, I wonder how much they know, boy. I wonder what they know, boy. We need to know how much they know so we know who to put in place to lie and who we need to pay off to come and lie and say this and that. But we don't know. We don't want to be caught with our pants down, because if they don't disclose everything and then we end up in the court and they catch you when they ask a question, we could have had somebody in place to come and lie on this, but we didn't know what they have. So we need to go to court and let the court force them to tell us every single thing they have so we could read it and we know, well, all right, they know this, 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 and this. They don't know this, right? Good. So we don't have to defend them. But this, they know about this? Okay. Make sure and get this one, call this one, and get this one. Let them know how much we had to pay them to lie and say whatever. That's what they wanted. Now that they went through the full gamut all the way up to the Privy Council. The Privy Council said, we want to hear earlier. Based on what we read from the High Court, Justice Aboud, and the Appellate Court, Rajkumar, Kukaram, and Pemberton, we good. All you have a case to answer. All right? Go from here. But Ralph Maraj wouldn't write about that. That's basically what the Privy Council said. Go from here. We don't want to hear all about that. Go and answer all your case. Okay? Right. They get the information now. All they wanted to know, well, now you know. And all they vex. The supporters of the UNC vex. And all, why so long? And it took so long because Munilal and the contractors dragged this thing out for 7 years. They went through the High Court. The High Court said, as I will read for you just now, based on the evidence that we have here, all you have a case to answer for fraud, bid rigging, and other things. They say now we are taking that, we are appealing. They go on to the appeal court. The appeal court say, hey, we agree with Justice Aboud. All you have case to answer. They say now we agree with that. We're going to the Privy Council. The Privy Council say, hey, all you have case to answer. All 3 courts say all you have case to answer. Go back and answer for me, please. Right. Going on with this thing here. Just now, give me 1 second here. So the court tell them, well, they have case to answer. 3 courts. The same Privy Council that they love so much, or the Privy Council say you had to investigate Aboud. Investigate Aboud for what? Because the Auditor General said that he was biased and that his decision to initiate this probe into what happened with respect to the understatement was biased, because he initiated the probe and he selected the people to conduct the probe, and therefore, because of the relationship between the 2 of them, that she doesn't think she will get a fair shake, and that this whole probe, she don't have any issue with any other parts of the probe, just her involvement. And it's interesting that Lady Simla, right, who was the only person who made mention about the conduct of the minister and why isn't the minister being investigated. She was the same law lord of the 5 who submitted the written judgment And nowhere in the 60 paragraphs does she make any mention about any investigation into Mr. Aboud. So she would have said that during the oral submissions of Mr. Menz. That was her personal opinion. But clearly, the other 4 jurists didn't support that. And so it did not make its way into the final judgment. So I challenge any of them who only, the Privy Council say, even this clown Ralph Maraj who wrote that in his article this week about the law lords said. The law lords, plural, didn't say that. 1 of 5 said that. And clearly, because she did not find support with the other 4, it did not make its way into any of the 60 paragraphs in the final judgment. So there is no recommendation in the final judgment, which is the most important, not what anybody said during oral submissions. And I find it very interesting that they only cut that part and create a short video to put out there for people to see. And because they know the psyche of the Trinidadians, they go run with that. But everything else that was said, well, they didn't cut snippets of that and put it out there. Because you know the average citizen ain't going to look for the whole thing to sit down and watch that. So you put what was convenient to you to try and sway public opinion and you share it out there. And of course, it yielded the result. Everybody, yeah, the Privy Council say they should investigate EMBD and they should investigate EMBD. But it's the same Privy Council that you have utmost confidence in that didn't even want to hear Munilal and them. Same Privy Council say, all you have a case to answer. Go and answer all your case. Because the evidence that we seen in front here suggests there was bid rigging, fraud, conspiracy, you name it. We ain't throwing this out. All they have a case to answer. But Prasad Bisesa want to tell you the same Privy Council that she so loved. When the same Privy Council in 2023 told the government all they need to have the local election. Right? Oh, the Privy Council, thank God for the Privy Council. That's why we have one CCJ. The Privy Council and the Privy Council, all they love them too bad. Well, quote for us, since every day all in comments what the Privy Council say and the Privy Council say that Munilal have a case to answer. The Privy Council don't know Munilal, they don't know Rowley, they don't know Kamla, they don't know these people. They have no horse in the race, right? And they said he have a case to answer along with the contractors. But who was the first person to say that? Let me read it. On Thursday, Justice James Aboud dismissed the preliminary applications of the 5 contractors. Aboud found that the allegations were sufficiently pleaded. His ruling means that the multi-million-dollar claim can proceed to trial. Let me repeat that. Aboud found that the allegations were sufficiently pleaded. The EMBD was able to supply sufficient evidence to plead the case of fraud, bribery, bid rigging, you name it. As he said here, all of these oddities, let me quote him again, unusual patterns, oddities, and inconsistencies. This is Justice Aboud, but you know what they will say? He's at 1%, and the 1% does support the PNM. Okay, well, all right, let me we'll continue. They will run with that Shopper talk. Aboud, right. The judge took almost 3 hours to read out a summary of his decision, which was delivered by remote hearing. 3 hours. So he had to take the time now to sit down and come up with this 3-hour judgment. We know the UNC don't have a tolerance for lengthy speeches, right? When Aboud talk for more than 3 hours for the budget debate, they'll be upset when he gave the speech. He held, this is Justice Aboud, there was compelling evidence of collusion from what was pleaded by the EMBD in its 1,556 plus page statement. 1,556 pages. So this poor man had to sit down and read 1,556 plus pages of evidence submitted by the EMBD. And as he said here, the evidence was compelling evidence of collusion. This is Justice Aboud saying that, right? Having read what could be the equivalent of 3 to 4 novels, over 1,556 pages, they put this man through that torture. I couldn't do that. But he chose that work. Aboud said the contractors ought to fully understand the allegations to allow them to plead their defenses. I cannot see how they cannot, he said. Someone has to explain at the appropriate time how these unusual patterns, oddities, and inconsistencies can exist other than by means of collusion by contractors. Well, Justice Aboud, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa attempted to explain that it could exist other than by collusion of contractors. And her explanation is that it is because of a PNM attempt or smear campaign to make all East Indians look like thieves. So it wasn't because of collusion by contractors, but rather a PNM propaganda machinery designed to make all East Indians look like thieves. So that someone is explaining it to you, sir. Aboud is presiding over the EMBD's lawsuit against former Housing Minister Dr. Ruda Munilal, as well as a consolidated case in which 3 companies have sued the state-owned EMBD over unpaid contracts for the upgrade and rehabilitation of certain Caroni access roads. In the EMBD countersuit, the state entity is seeking repayment of sums paid to the contractors, which was identified as TN Ramnath and Company, Calco Limited, Motilal Ramhit and Sons, and Fides Limited. You remember? I can't remember if it was one of them. I think it might have been Ramhit, but I stand to be corrected. Where one of these contractors, if memory serves me correctly, had built a mansion in Millennium Lakes. You know that upscale neighborhood up by Trinity Mall, behind Trinity Mall there, where they have the golf course. And when you drive inside there, you're seeing some kind of palatial homes like, wow, you're swaying in Beverly Hills or something. Yes, remember one of the contractors was living there, and shortly after the PNM won the election in 2015, suffered a heart attack, and they found him dead in his bedroom. And they said it was reported in the Sunshine newspaper. The guilt was too much. He felt like the police was coming to get him. Didn't know what to do. They weighed down on him. Remember that. The EMBD's claim against Munilal also includes former EMBD Chief Executive Gary Pamasa, former Divisional Manager at EMBD Maro Balrup, Andrew Walker and Companies Fides Limited, Namalco Construction and LCB Contractors. Munilal and others were accused of engaging in an elaborate scheme of bid rigging, bribery, and collusion, which led to hundreds of millions of dollars being disbursed to 5 contractors just before the 2015 election. Just before. They had 5 years. But just before the general election, they decided, yeah, we're going and pave these access roads. Not the highway, not major roads, no. Yeah, these Caroni access roads. They borrowed $400 million from First Citizens Bank. Borrowed a thief. They are accused of participating in the cartel arrangement by colluding between themselves to ensure that specific companies, by a wrongful and unlawful agreement, were awarded specific contracts at inflated amounts and received payments that were not due. The complex fraud scheme was described as a cartel arrangement in an unlawful scheme conspiracy. In their applications, they argued that the EMBD could not simply allege collusion, and it would be wrong for the court to rule that collusive bidding vitiated the contracts as a matter of public policy. They argued that the companies would have had to know about the alleged breaches of fiduciary duty for the contracts to be voided for public policy. Aboud acknowledged that the unlawful conspiracy thought was still in its development stages jurisprudentially, and pointed out that at this stage, he was ruling on the inferential evidence since defenses have not yet been filed in the matter. Conspiracy is not a tort with many smoking guns with fingerprints. It is an uncommon tort, and all of these will converge at trial for the court to assess the sufficiency of the pleadings. He also examined the pleadings of the EMBD, which included text messages between people identified as key players in the cartel arrangement. He said, in matters where alleged fraud is to be drawn by inference, the issue of particulars becomes ticklish, and considerable latitude should be given to allow the process to take place. Aboud said he was prepared to give EMBD some latitude, and pointed out that since the matter had not yet reached the case management stage, there was sufficient time for the state agency to amend its claim against the defendants and include further evidence. That's what the EMBD did last week. They amended their claim and they added further evidence. Evidence, not information, not hearsay, evidence. So now they're vexed. The supporters are the fully dance, upset. And oh, why now? And why now? And just before an election, and the PNM has always come with that just before election to make allegations against people and whatnot and stuff. But if allegations had come out now against somebody in the PNM, well, they wouldn't be singing that tune. And again, I make the point. The matter is now where it is because of the efforts of Munilal and the contractors, more so the contractors, to try and have this matter thrown out. And since October last year, the Privy Council handed out its judgment, and the matter has now come before Justice Sipasad again, who expressed that the matter would be expedited because he said this is the oldest matter on his docket. He is not one to drag out matters for so long, and he was perplexed, right, and upset that this matter that is 7 years old or so is still on his docket, and he wants to deal with it. So Olivex, take it up with Sipasad. He is not prepared to have it drawn out until after the general election, when the UNC could come back into power and simply decide that they no longer wish to pursue the case. Appoint a new board to the EMBD, and the new board will say, well, all right, we're not going to pursue this matter anymore, and we're going to drop the case. And Munilal and the contractors could walk free. And if you drop the case, then you are admitting you owe, and you will have to find $200+ million to pay to these contractors. At a time when they're telling you the country don't have money, and we have money, but they are prepared to start office a new term with a debt of 200 million, because the only way Munilal could get away from this is if they win the election and the government appoints a new board to EMBD and gives them instructions to drop the matter, or if it goes to trial and the evidence is insufficient to make out a case. But so far it seems a case has been made out, even without what was recently put out by the EMBD. The new evidence, the old evidence that they submitted since 2020, Justice Aboud, the Appeal Court of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Privy Council have the considered view that wrongdoing took place. So that this new evidence and this new submissions and these amendments of the EMBD should only serve to strengthen their case even further. Right? So the two ways he could get away. You all give them the opportunity to get back into office and drop the case, or the matter goes to trial as it is headed and they get off, which doesn't seem very likely at this time. Justice Aboud goes on. He said some of the contractors may know of some of the wrong and some may know of all, and therefore answers must be given. He also said the best forum for the clash of expert opinions on several aspects of the claim as it related to pricing, bills of quantities, pre-tender estimates, and other issues was best for trial, not at this stage. Aboud also held that the EMBD claim of bribery and fraud against the former minister and the EMBD executives, Parmasa and Ramnath, certainly has something to answer for. Let me repeat that. Aboud also held that the EMBD claim of bribery and fraud against the former minister, Munilal, and the EMBD's executives, Parmasa and Ramnath, certainly has something to answer for. This is a judge who has been on the bench for years. This is a judge who is accustomed to listening to evidence. This is a man who, prior to coming to the bench, was a lawyer. So he knows how to read submissions and to look at evidence. Right? So he's applying his years of legal expertise to what is before him. And he is saying, based on what is before me here, somebody, at least Munilal and these executives, have something to answer for. He goes on, Mr. Parmasa, I think, will have a lot to answer for at trial. I think the case against Mr. Parmasa is the strongest among all of the cases, he said. So Justice Aboud, the parties have 7 days to appeal, but August 21st has been set for a hearing to deal with the applications for the extension of time to file defenses. Appearing for the contractors, right, the EMBD was represented by Queen's Counsel David Phillips, Jason Mutu, Savitri Sukraj Bihari, and Tamara Tulsi. Now, I would think if the PNM was trying to make all East Indians look like thieves, you would look to hire attorneys who are not East Indian. But we go in with what Pasad Bisasa said, right? She says so, not me. She's senior counsel. She's an attorney, clearly not a very good one. But she's insulting the intelligence of all of her colleagues. Where is Israel Khan, her personal attorney? What is his view on this? Has he read what is in the public domain with respect to the submissions of EMBD? Is he of the view that this is a conspiracy? Does he differ with the judgment of Justice Aboud, Justices Kokaram, Pemberton, and the other one, I forget his name now, yes? Is he of a different view to that of the Privy Council, all of whom have said there's a case to answer here. But we are going into an election, and Prasad Bisesa, in spite of all of this, unable to take off a political cap. Right? Look at this dispassionately. If you're truly about good governance, you're against corruption, you want to make sure that should you win the election, you have the best team possible, and you don't want to have the headache of having to deal with more scandals like this taking place. But then when you would have benefited indirectly, because from what is published, a lot of the money would have gone to fund Kamla 2015, of course you have to stand by Munila. So it is now left up to you, the right-thinking citizens, to pick sense some nonsense and decide if well, you're going and buy into this foolish narrative about there is no truth to this. Munilal is innocent, right? Like, is it Caesar's wife? Above reproach. He could withstand the most robust of scrutiny, so she's not going to tell him to clear his name and come back as she's often want to do. She is going to do the same thing they accused Stuart Young of when they put the question to Fitzy and Minister Young decided to answer. So she told Munila, you go so. I go in and talk for you. I defending you. And I doubling down too. Make care who come after me and who say that I'm blowing the racial dog whistle. I taken that leg sphere. The same thing with Ram Logan and Ramdeen in the Vincent Nelson matter, where Vincent Nelson provided receipts. The man say, I transferred money, kickback money to the account of, what's his name? Ramdeen. He gave the police the bank account number. He provided the police with the wire transfer receipts where the money went from his account to Ramdeen account. All that information, he gave the dates on which he transferred the money. So all the police in Trinidad has to do is to file for a production order to get statements on Ramdeen's account from the date this account was open to present. So we can see all the transactions in his account and see if they match up with what it is Nelson says he paid. Simple as that. Forget everything else. If Nelson, is claiming that he paid kickback money to Mr. Ramdeen and he didn't pay it in cash, he sent it wire transfer, so there is a paper trail. If he says he put this amount of money on this date, this date into Ramdeen's account, very easy to prove. Get Ramdeen's bank statements and see if what came into the account on these dates match up with what Vincent Nelson says. But the UNC come to tell you, that didn't happen. That is lie. They pay Nelson to lie. So they paid the officials at NatWest Bank to generate false bank statements too. And then they paid the officials at Scotiabank in Trinidad and Tobago to type up false statements too. Is that what they did? You see the depth of conspiracy that you have to go through to support the nonsense, and you have people like Saddam Hussein who will hold a press conference and tell you everything that Vincent Nelson say read like a fairy tale. The only thing was missing was once upon a time and the end. He hopes to be in cabinet after the next general election, has hopes to be the next attorney general possibly, but will call a press conference and sit down and tell you, you see everything Vincent Nelson say, you see what was published in the newspaper, where they give you the whole chronicle, where he provided receipts and say he paid this amount and the dates, all of that is lie. The brothers Grimm couldn't write a story good so. That could give Hansel and Gretel some serious competition. That's what Saddam Hussein, the future of the UNC, said in a press conference. That all of that Vincent Nelson said was a fairy tale. And expect you to believe that. Because we're stupid. We dotish. We don't understand how the system works. Because you could just walk into a police station and say, I pay a minister a bribe. And the police will just say, yeah, we're going to lock him up. Jump in the car and they go by the minister's house and say, well, we come to arrest you because somebody just walked into the police station and say they paid you X amount of money as a bribe and they deposited the money to your account, so we come to lock you up and charge you. That's how it's done. No investigation. Because if that is the claim and I never received the money, which account do you say the money went to? Let me see. No, I don't have any such bank accounts. Well, it's easy for the police to find out, you know. We get a production order and we go to the bank. We got some information here from a guy by the name of Vincent Nelson, claims that he deposited some monies wire transfers to an account in the name of Joel Ramdeen on such and such date. Mr. Ramdeen says he has no accounts with you all in this number. Could you please check your system and see if there is in fact if this is in fact a legitimate account number in Joel Ramdeen's name. Yes, we do have an account, that number registered to Joel Ramdeen. Okay, nice. But we have a warrant here, a production order. We would like to get statements on this account from the date it was open to present, please. No problem. The court, you have a court order, you print it out and you give it to the police. They go back to the office, they get Mr. Nelson's bank statements, Mr. Nelson's wire transfer statements, and we go through. Mr. Nelson said on the 15th of May, he transferred 100,000 pounds to Mr. Ramdeen, so that works out to roughly what? Almost $1 million. All right. Let's see here. Well, it might have taken 2 days, 3 days, so we expect to see this money coming in the account around the 20th of May. Yes, there's a figure here, 20th of May. Where did this transfer originate? NatWest Bank held on such and such street in London. Okay. All right. Let me go again. Nelson said that he gave him 50,000 pounds on the 20th of June. Right? And let me see. So we know the figure we're looking for. Right. Yes. Look at it. The TT equivalent. Where did that originate? NatWest Bank. All right. So what Nelson said we could corroborate. But Kamla and them and Mr. Saddam Hussein want you to believe that that can happen. All that was made up. And he is an attorney. He is the brightest bulb in the chandelier in the parliament when you have a debate. Any matter to do with any particular bit of legislation. All of them just sit down in awe. And the jaw hanging and the dribbling at every word that falls from his lips. And after he finished, brilliant, Saddam, brilliant. You're so brilliant, and you really feel the ordinary citizen stupid. We dotish. And we stupid. Everything Nelson says is a lie. They're supporting that. And then Prasad Bissessa will go to an event and say, them boys is good lawyers and they know how to get themselves off. Them boys is good lawyers. You took an oath of office, right? Several times. Several times you took an oath to defend, right? You swore allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and to carry out your duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will. Several times you took that oath. So that when you could come now and try to defend somebody who is, it is alleged, defrauded the citizens of this country of millions of dollars, you have betrayed that oath. They should be able to arrest you for that, right? That should be tantamount to misbehavior in public office, because it says when time comes and you take the oath and you hold in the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible, whichever, if you decide that you're a Hindu or you're a Baptist, whichever book, holy book you decide to take the oath on, it means nothing. It is empty. You're just reading words, but you have no intentions of upholding that oath. You have no business being in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You have no business holding the position of opposition leader, far more for Prime Minister, because you have demonstrated that you are prepared to uphold wrongdoing because it's party before country. And if you disagree with that, go to hell. Go to hell. So you are telling the right-thinking citizens of this country, those who don't support you, the non-waterfront ilk, go to hell. If you don't support party before country, go to hell. Well, the right-thinking citizens, Prasad Bissessa, will respond to that whenever the general election is called. 7701763. That's right, Curtis. It has no meaning to them. Not to them, not to her, not to Saddam, not to Munilal, or any of the rest of them sitting in that parliament there. Who defending her? Who defending Munilal? Where is Rushton Parry? What has he to say on this latest development? But you're all over the place coming to talk about, oh, the government this, and with respect to the squatters who they displaced. Right? The squatters who they displaced the other day. You're all over the place for that. All over. Nothing to say about this latest development involving Munila. I'm not surprised. But you're supposed to be the future of the UNC. And? Okay. I tell you. Let me get this here. So, hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good day, good day, good day.
Good day, ma'am.
Calling from Malabar, Mausika again.
Welcome.
To voice. I know from church. And I see a heating up the place. It is one thing I'm realizing is that our UNC compatriots and the followers, even within the people, within their party, right? I mean, I've been looking at the news and seeing what's happening with the MPs and who refuses to go back up and whatever. So that alone should be a testament to what is going on, and the fact that if they themselves are they on the inside and they are rejecting the policy and the procedures and the way that the party is being run, then something is really wrong. And that is where now the electorate is called upon to, really look at what is going on and observe, right? And again, you cannot be pirating and pirating, I should say, one word for one party and not have it for your own members, right? Regardless to what, unless you have something to hide.
Yes.
Right? So again, you're right, thinking individuals, and people need to stop thinking that it's only party we vote along lines. I am looking at every single body, and I know persons along my age range, we are questioning everything. So if it is you are coming and stepping to us, step to us correct. Don't just look to point a finger, asking you a question, but you're pointing a finger the next side. It needs to be both, and I need to hear from everybody. And then I would make a decision on election day, whenever that is court. Yes. You understand? So, I mean, if the evidence is there are things that you can do, I would address it, because I am now calling on the electorate to put me back there and to put the confidence, in the people that I am putting forward in the different seats. So if it is that, you want to be above reproach, and there should never be a question as to why or where this money going or whatever, or I wonder if this person is trustworthy, deal with it now.
That's right.
I would be glad, because I want to deal with it now. If I am above board, that is only if I am above board as an individual. So that is my contribution this morning, this evening actually.
Yes.
And super good work.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. Let me answer something I see here on YouTube, right? Winston is saying, the UNC tried to fix the education problems by giving our children laptops and have built 106 schools. What have the PNM did for the education? All right, I'm going to read this for you here, Winston. Kamala gave out 95,000 laptops in 5 years. I'm going to read this media release for you. September the 5th, 2023, Ministry of Education, their editor, head of department, 71,000 laptops and tablets distributed to teachers and students, 2020 to 2023. Over the last 3 years, the Ministry of Education has distributed a total of 71,000 laptops and tablets to students and teachers throughout Trinidad. Today, Tuesday, 5th September 2023, distribution of 8,000 laptops to principals for both students and teachers in their respective schools commenced. So this is an additional 8 to add to the 71. So 79,000 in 3 years, as opposed to Prasad Bisessa's 95,000 in 5. This distribution process continues until Monday, September 18, 2023, during which time principals of over 500 primary and secondary schools are scheduled to collect their devices. Dr. the Honorable Nian Gatsby Dolly, speaking on the distribution, said, in today's learning environment, a digital device is a necessary tool to support academic success. Digital access is a critical thread in the fabric of Trinidad and Tobago's educational transformation. Parents are reminded that the devices are distributed on the basis of passing a means test, which remains accessible on the ministry's website. The ministry continues to process requests from parents on an ongoing basis and will provide devices to eligible students based on available supplies. You hear that, Winston? You want to know what did the PNM do? UNC gave out laptops, the PNM gave out 79,000, and they're still giving out. So all you have to do is to go on the ministry's website, and as they say, it's means tested. So they're not going to do like Prasad Bisessa and give out laptops to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Jenny, and Jean. Some of these children who don't need it because they come from wealthy backgrounds. You know, the same 1% all they don't like and like to jam. And as I told you before, the last time you raised this issue, but I don't understand why you're raising it again, is that there were situations like in my own case where my niece and nephew would have received laptops and their mother would have told them, take it back. Because their father living abroad, just as you, Winston, right? He lives in Seattle. At the time he was living in Fort Lauderdale, and he sent them, they had iPad, they had iPhone, they had MacBook, right? All these things he sent them to them. So they didn't need it. So to come home with these 2 laptops that the school or the ministry gave to you, it would have just ended up in a corner somewhere collecting dust, or they might have given it to their younger cousins or so who were in kindergarten to play with. They didn't need it. So take it back to the ministry, take it back to school, and let them give it to somebody who needs it, because you all don't need it. So that is how this administration is operating. We're just not just giving it out to say we give out laptops. We're giving it to the people who in need. And also too, they're putting things in place so that there could be access to internet. Not that when the children come to school, the only time they have access is in school, but when they go home, no internet, so it makes no sense. They cannot use it on a practical basis outside of the learning environment. All right, Vincent? And with the issue of the 106 schools, I don't have the time today to play. Maybe the last time I played it, you probably didn't hear it. Maybe you didn't start subscribing to this platform yet. But in May of 2019, during the mid-year review debate, the then Minister of Education, Anthony Garcia, responding to the then Member of Parliament for Caroni Central or Caroni East or something like that. I can't remember what Gopi Singh was, which constituency he represented. But he attempted to hoodwink the population with this same 106 school talk, right? And as soon as he was done, Minister Garcia, who indicated he had not intended to participate in the debate, but when he heard Gopi Singh ranting about his 106 schools, he, Mr. Garcia, was able to get the information from the ministry with respect to the 106 schools, and he rubbished Gopi Singh. Rubbished Gopi Singh. Went through all of the schools that were started under the Manning administration, but was not completed because of the election having been called and the PNM losing the election. The UNC came in and met several schools already under construction. It was completed, the contracts were giving out, and construction was underway when they came in. But they got the opportunity to commission it. These schools having been completed under them, and they took credit for things that they had nothing to do with from the onset. The same way they tried to take credit for the Arangwes interchange, which started under Mr. Manning. The same way they tried to take credit for the Grand Bazaar interchange, which started under Mr. Manning and was completed under them. And had Mr. Manning not called the election early in 2010, these things would have been completed under the PNM. The dishonesty of the UNC, wanting to take credit for things that they had nothing to do with. You came in and met projects underway and decided to take credit, and then you all come here and parrot that foolishness instead of going and do your research. But as I said, I don't have the time to play it today, but I will pull it up, and perhaps on Tuesday morning, God's Spare Life, right? I will play it for you to hear. Jenny. No, this is not Moby, this is apple juice.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yeah, Jenny.
Good afternoon, also logged on to Faxes 7. Do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
This phone is be kind of troublesome, eh?
Yeah, we hear you.
Today, Sunday, start going to church. Because we are a society that is multi-spiritual, multi-religious, and it's important. We tolerate all ethnic groups as we should, because our anthem said every freedom is an equal place. And it speaks about tolerance and production. So in that vein, I want to stand here. This is the year of Jubilee. So those who are so inclined will understand what I mean by that. What's sown and harvest. So when you see people enjoying certain things, whether good or bad, it's what they would have sown and like what they reap now. So when I see her and she's brought race to the forefront as a way to defend Dr. Munilal and what is happening with the UNC. To me, that is a seed that has been sown years ago, since the inception of the DLP, In fact, it was PDP, People's Democratic Party, then DLP, Democratic Labour Party, that was founded by Sadan Baka and Paris Sagan Maharaj, who was the founder of the Sanatan Sabha. So it has always been a Hindu political party. And it came through the ages of the era of Mr. Pandey.
Jenny. Hello. Jenny, break it up.
You hear me?
Yeah, stay right there.
Yeah, tell me when you hear me better.
Yeah, we hear you good. Stay right there.
All right. So as I was saying, the UNC has always been Hindu-based. And if you're a Hindu-based political party, then it could never be national. And if you're not national, then you will always be racial and only talking about ethnicity, because then the people who you cater for is of one race. And that's where UNC has found itself now. It has always put people of African descent there just to make it appear as though that they are national. And those who they put there as African people, to me, has always appeared that once they could cut your own, you could cut another African, you could cut African leaders, you could cut, you're welcome in the UNC. I'm saying all this to say the UNC has, its strategies have failed and continue to fail them. That is why they have never been able to last longer than 5 years. They are one-term government whenever they get into governance. Because they don't have a structure, they don't have a policies. Only ideology is about the Hindu community. Nothing wrong in wanting to promote your ethnic group or your religious group. However, if you're looking at Trinidad and Tobago that is multicultural, multi-ethnic, you definitely can have a political party that caters to one segment of the society. So that the failure is. And Kamla Prasad Bissessa is a desperate, drowning woman who is using race in a situation when she should be simply saying, let the war take its course. But because she's not losing grip on reality, she's losing grip on the people and supporters, even within the UNC. She has gone back to the old ideology, let us talk race. Even Vijay Maharaj would have come out and said it in not in so much words, but I'll put it my way, that he has instructed his pundits and they not allow the UNC, I'm paraphrasing, to come into the temples or anywhere to talk about politics. Because he and all has realized that it has become disrespectful and even racist towards their own. And he mentioned Julie John. He didn't call her by name, but Julie John. Going on a platform and probably Kamla Prasad Bissessa would have used Minister Siojong and his brother to try to degrade them and insult them by calling them Rajas and some Hindu names. And the Mahasabha leader would have taken offense to it, as he should have, because he would have mentioned their mom is Muslim, and why you didn't use Muslim names, why you use Hindu names. So has an issue in trying to transfer it to their national party. And Kamla Prasad Bissessa needs to realize what he could have get away with in 2010 and before that. This country is not going to get away with that using race as bait. I'm saying no necessary end of the day.
Jenny, break it up again.
Yeah, you hear any better?
Yeah, stay right there.
Right. So I just
Right, you're going again, Jen. I don't know what B Mobile doing to you. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
But this
Jen, you're breaking up again.
if it changes,
I know, Jenny. Jenny, I'll call me back. We need you.
hi Tom,
Morning.
how are you, my love?
Very good.
What did Oreo mean in 2015? What did black man mean?
Yes.
What does younger neighbor your slave masters mean? What does only parent does your children mean? And the latest with this term is yam. What those things mean? You can tell me? You know Oreo to me? Original, righteous, effective person. I'm an Oreo. Short, black, proud, and about Oreo. I'm an international biscuit. And yam is versatile. Fry yam, boil yam, pound yam, yam pie. So to understand me means to tell me with racism, you have nothing else to talk about cancer. You told your corner, clean him, come back home. David Lee committed fraud. Declared him come back home. Anna Ram told from $53 million. Declare his name and come back home. Ram contested the election 2023. Looking at the election. Time that? Will you learn? Have questions for his name. Declare his name come back to Kamla. Is it because one is Oreo, yam, and one is double? That's racism. You have with Alexander, who called you all kind of names, Kamla. Why are you still there? He's 1%. How convenient. Kamla used racism because you have nothing to add to the pot. Not salt, not sugar, you know the fire, you know the pan, you know the spoon. And I hear this common phrase for call language again, this ball head loud, anal, right? Talk about loud. Anal, anal, so the name is it. Valentine's Day, I saw how much I didn't love you. In the first video I had it, I took it off my phone. And your love is rum. You are Kamla's laughing stock. And if you want Jamaica's gas, why Jamaica want our goods, our cereal, our snacks, our beer? Carry Cummins, Caribbean Community Panel. So should you win in 2015 annum, right? Sorry, 2025, can you go to Jamaica? But you cannot help? Can you go when you're pushing racism? How can they want our goods? We don't want the oil. One said we should go to Diana. Why is that? Diana has oil, but they're paying to extract the oil. Ramadan, have a good day. Be blessed, everyone.
Thank you. I know we heard when last year Dinesh Rambali Same thing that Ragobar is telling us now. Teenage told us last year. Rodney Charles told us last year, nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC. And you know why Posabi Sessa is forced to protect these people? Because she has nobody else to choose from. Right? Nobody else. If she get rid of Monilal, who she going to put it? That's the reason why up to now, they've only named, 8 candidates, having closed nominations since last year, April, because you can't find people of substance to come out who are willing to offer themselves to run under the UNC banner. So you're looking at any little thing you could pick up. And then talking about, we're taking our time and we want to choose the best people. So you're all over the place begging this one and begging that one to come. But telling them, no, we're not interested. You are not going to sully my reputation. And to make it worse now, when you're insulting people's intelligence, because people are reading what is in the newspapers, what has been put out there, the allegations against this man. And rather than you tell him, you need to step aside. These are damning allegations, if there's any truth to it. I don't believe it, but still, the best way to clear your name, go through the process, you say you're innocent, present your evidence, beat the case, and come back. That's all. You have time. Don't drag it out. You should not drag it out in the first place. Because if you were so innocent, this matter could have been dealt with since 2020. You didn't have to appeal to the appeal court. You didn't have to appeal to the Privy Council. They could have dealt with it, say, here what? We innocent. We go to trial after Justice Aboud handed down his judgment. And this matter could have been dealt with 2021, 2022, 2023. Your name would have been cleared and you're free. But while you fight it, till every court that you went to say you all have a case to answer. And now it has come to heel. And in the absence of any defense, because Munilal ain't talking, we know he knows how to call a press conference. Call a press conference and try to clear your name now. Identify what are the allegations against you and tell us this is not true because so. Explain. Up to now, you're still in explain the $800 million in houses missing. Up to now, he is not a man to remain quiet on these things. When it is that he feels that it is wrong, he has said nothing. Julene has said nothing. Prasad Bisesa has said nothing. The ministry is trying to find out what that 180 million you all borrowed from NLCB was about. Well, proffer an excuse, assist them, tell them. No, but now it's convenient. And all you're hoping against hope that you win the election and that you could drop this matter, but you could drop the civil case, but you cannot drop the police matter. And I trust that the acting Commissioner of Police, Junior Benjamin, coming on the heels of what Gary Griffith told us, that based on the evidence that he saw, and Gary Griffith, the commissioner, was spearheading that, I would want to recommend with acting Commissioner Benjamin, could you please do the same for us, sir? And while you're at it, could you provide us with some sort of update on the Prison Gate investigation, sir, that has been ongoing for the last 11 years, sir? And while you're at it, could you give us some sort of update on what's happening with the investigation into Padarath, sir? How far has that reached? We would like to know that it is not sitting on a shelf collecting dust somewhere, sir, because the people want to give priority to investigation into Ula Christopher. And then I see on today's front page of the Express, 25,000 army bullets missing. Defense Force Chief orders audit and inquiry. Shouldn't be that hard, because this is supposed to be controlled inventory. So only certain people should have access to the armory. So if it is bullets missing, then it's only the team of or the pool of persons who you need to question should be limited. Just like when the 70 high-powered or the 40 high-powered guns went missing from the forensic center 2010 to 2015. Right? 40 high-powered guns that were seized by the police, some of which were used in crimes, went missing over a 1-year period and nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Again, controlled inventory. So it's only certain people should have access to the room where these things are kept. So that when things like this happen, it should be very easy to narrow down the pool of persons who might be responsible. But things like this is why sometimes you had to endorse the saying Trinidad is not a real place. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Hello. Okay, don't know what's happening there. Hello. Let me try that again. It's connected. Give me 1 sec here, folks. I don't know what's going on with this thing. So. 1 sec, folks. Let me see. All right. Hello. Good afternoon. All right, Kola, you had to come back. I don't know what's going on there. Why we're not hearing you? Try that again. Hello. Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
You can hear me?
Yes, I am.
All right, cool. Thank you. Well, like I said again, congratulations on your selection of for the candidate for Maloney Mausika.
Malabar Mausika.
Hello?
Malabar Mausika.
Malabar Mausika. Sorry about that.
Yes.
And you're going to be successful.
Thank you.
You know what really amuses me with this whole bacchanal, Dominic?
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting in today's Guardian that we would have seen either the EMBD scandal or the infamous racial statement made by Cartel in the front page. But they decided to show the thing with the two boatmen who get rescued in Tobago. But you know, it was the other way around. If something like that happened in the PNM camp, it would have been splashed up on the front page. You know? So I just looking at that with that cut eye. Because I see Gary Griffith and the political leader of the APP came out in condemnation of that so-called racial baiting made by Kamala Prasad.
Yes.
Concerned with the EMD, and I noticed that certain political pundits are talking about it. Particularly this gentleman from Tobago. I hear nothing from Mr. Ford Khan. I hear nothing from the so-called attorney man, Israel Khan. So I just watching this thing look very strange. But you know, when PNM make, you know, on the other side now, when PNM probably make comments, every time they can either jump up. You know?
Yep.
Speaking of which, have the UNC put out a candidate? Because I see that the APP put out somebody who is supposedly a former PNM councillor to go up against you.
Who is this?
Well, I'm not too sure thing. Did the UNC put up a candidate?
No, they have not selected anybody for Malabar Mausika yet.
And what about from the Patriot Front Party?
I saw the Patriotic Front put up somebody, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know how do you think, but I know you'll be where here, Dominic.
Yep.
Okay. And I just want to tell people trying to be good. Still going on right now in the United States. It is in chaos. Imagine that I had to watch a little child embarrass the president. I don't know if you watch that thing with the little child in the Oval Office.
I saw it, yeah.
I have thoughts on that. Huh? But what I could say is, whatever children hear from their parent, they will repeat it.
Yep.
So it is very interesting. We live in interesting times. So let people could go to the toilet and decide to bring back these people back into the in office. And Mr. Ragobar, I have no sympathy for him. You know why? Because you saw him outside that woman for the last 10 years, I think, I believe. And you ain't seen nothing. Now that you're no longer the candidate the perspective kind of come out of now you're speaking out. Right? Dominic, you have a good day.
You too, sir. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic,
Oh Lord, leave it there.
what's going on?
All is well.
Look here, boy.
Let me hear you back now.
Dominic, I did not hear your response when I told you what Dr. Rowley said, a stronger Tobago will make Trinidad strong. I didn't hear your only response to that.
No response to
Dominic,
what?
why you think when he get the Cartel in Tobago, he said, my focus now is on Trinidad. Why you think he said that, Dominic?
Well, Tobago made their decision.
Because he was fixing Tobago and sucking it away in Trinidad. But now you get the Cartel in Tobago, you want people who want you. Now you want to say your focus now is on Trinidad. You have no choice. Look how much things you doing in Trinidad, Dominic. Only feel like going on a rabbit hole with Dr. Rowley, let him go. I can't wait to see the back of Dr. Rowley's structure and calling him both. Then she waste of time and then only go ahead. Dominic, I will leave it here for now.
Leave it there. Why you don't form a party? You don't even need to form a party. You could go up as an independent in Diego Martin West. You run for the seat now. I'd show them how to do it. You run for the seat. I don't understand this seeming hatred you have for Dr. Rowley. Oh gosh, boy. Let it go. Let it go. Oh gosh. Yeah, Dr. Rowley living rent-free in your head. Rent-free. Any man pay a little property tax self now? Gosh, boy. You see, as you come on here now, you get licks. You know, and this, I must say, this latest done by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar is most unfortunate because it has created a firestorm of racial invective taking place on social media. So you have PNM and UNC supporters fighting each other now over this whole race issue. From the perspective of UNC supporters saying they agree with Prasad-Bissessar and yes, the PNM racist and all of that, and then you know, the PNM people respond not with racist things, but to you know, well, remind them of some of the things that the UNC would have done. The 2020 election campaign, with the ads that they were running, where they had persons of African descent, in these ads, dress up like vagrants eating grass, or wandering around the car park in the in groceries, and people of East Indian descent coming out pushing trolleys, and the persons of African descent going and begging and asking for help, and they giving them bananas and stuff, or they buy. You see the doubles vendor, right? The doubles vendor is of East Indian descent, and you see the African person dressed like a vagrant coming around the doubles vendor begging and that sort of thing. These are the things that they were doing. And Prasad-Bissessar said, well, I wasn't aware. I didn't know. I haven't seen the ads. But when you go on her Facebook page, every single one of the ads that she claimed she didn't see was on her Facebook page for all to see. So are we to believe that you don't look at your Facebook page? You don't see what they're putting out? If that's the case, you had to be a special kind of dumb to have an administrator posting things on your page that you don't know about, that will be ascribed to you, and that when questions are to be asked, the questions are going to be directed to you. But I didn't see, I don't know, I'm not aware. You're never aware. Never aware. But persons remember these things. They remember these things, right? So, but that's always been the key, is to push that dog whistle because it works. Because there's nothing else that they could represent on. What are they going to say that they did in the last 9 years that says they are worthy to come back into office? Except talk about, like Winston here, talk about things that they did, the laptops and the claim of 106 schools, and they give out baby grant and land for the landless and stuff. You trying to win an election on past glories that are more than 10 years old? Seriously, Prasad Bisesa? What are your plans to treat with crime? Other than stand your ground and give law-abiding citizens firearm users licenses so they could go and buy gun. But it's the same breath you're telling us every opportunity she gets, people suffering, they can't buy food, they can't send their children to school, they can't pay their bills, but they have money to buy gun. They can't make the basics now, but put you back in office and you will give them firearm users licenses to defend themselves against the criminal element. Where the money coming from to buy the gun? Gun cheap? What's the cost of a gun? I don't know. How much a gun costs? I'm pretty sure it costs more than what they spend in at the grocery every month, right? But they can't afford that. But they will fight. They will go and take loan when they go to the arm. So what's the purpose of the loan? I want to buy a gun. Excuse? What you say? I want to buy a gun. You want a loan to buy a gun? Okay. All right. Lord have mercy. Brian.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Romy.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers who are listening to us, as well as on one ear is on us and one ear is on pan.
Yes.
You know, today is the day. I mean, can't go wrong. But it's important, the topics that you raised today.
Yes.
And you see, what is going on in the United States right now, Dominic, is something that we have to keep saying, keep repeating, that we have to look on and listen to. Not just hear, but listen to and understand what is going on. Because when Trump was charged with all the charges that was given onto him, today, what he has done, the latest that he has done, he has removed certain judges who were not born in America. They have now been fired, removed. Understand? Colombian judges from wherever part of the world, they have been removed, fired. And also, they are now attacking news companies like AP News, no longer allowed on Air Force One. He's also attacking the Washington Post, amongst many others, and there are another investigators appointed somebody to investigate all of these news companies, these talk show companies and news companies to see what can be done with them outside of what he is doing right now in firing people, and people are losing their jobs left, right, and center. Now the Republicans are now realizing that they are all part and parcel of it as well, and that they too are in the firing line. People will be asking, Dominic, when who are listening to you, why it is every time I come and I speak on your program, why do I keep talking about what's going on in America? I'll tell you why. Because Kamala Prasad Bisesa has no idea how to run this country. She has up to now not given Trinidad and Tobago not one new idea as to how she's going to raise revenue, outside of taking money from poor people account in unit trust and NIB. There's no other way that she has put forward to the people of Trinidad and Tobago how she's going to raise money. But you know what she's going to do? She's going to get in there and she's going to support certain people who have cases before the court and use race to support her cause, as she is doing right now. Kamala Prasad Bisesa does not, as she said, I don't care. When she heard what Ragobar said, instead of saying, listen, that is not true, she said, I don't care. And as the Honorable Dr. Rowley indicated, Kamala Prasad and her party is a bunch of bandits fronting as a political party. And that is a fact. Because if it is, you are telling me that all of this evidence has been brought against Rudal Munilal, and you are defending him to the hilt, and you're doubling down and tripling down on it. I want to ask you, people of Trinidad and Tobago, who you feel going to be the representative selected or nominated for candidacy of Urupuchis. But you see, Trinidad and Tobago, let's look at it from this direction too. Because you see, Anna Roberts, who is a diehard supporter of the UNC, went and was walking because he was of the view that he was going to be the representative for where? Aranguez, St. Joseph, spend his money, all kind of things. Only to realize he got a big swift kick in his backside and he's no longer the representative. I want you all to understand why it is Kamla Prasad Bissessa is demonstrating and showing her racial side, which is all of her. Because Desh Maharaj, nobody knew about he, nobody know he, but he ended up being who selected as who the candidate for Aranguez St. Joseph, and Anil Roberts, I see last name, Roberts, is no longer there. What is that telling you? I'm asking the question because you see, they said that he had baggage, and that's why he wasn't selected. And Indira Sajuan also agreed and said, but you have too much baggage, so you cannot be selected. I want to ask all the question. Does Anna Roberts have less or more or the same amount baggage as Rural Munilal? Ask all yourself that question. Because if it is, you are saying, you're using the excuse that Anna Roberts cannot be selected or given the candidacy for Aranguez St. Joseph because of baggage. Are you going to select David Lee for Claxton Bay? Are you going to select Rural Munilal for Urupuch East? I am just asking the question because I am of the firm view that Rural Munilal had just as much baggage, even more, as Anil Roberts. But you see, Anil had to understand, while you want to denigrate the PNM and talk Dr. Rowley and see the worst of the worst, because you are a mouthpiece for the UNC, they don't consider you. They don't consider you because your name is not Maharaj, your name is not Munilal, your name is Roberts. So you will not be considered. They're using you as a mouthpiece, a big loudmouth, waste of time loudpiece to portray the propaganda. That's what you're good for. You're not good enough to sit down in the members of Parliament House on behalf of the UNC. You could sit down in the upper house, we are far away from Kamla Prasad Bissessa. No problem, because sit down up there, she'll get a little 2x4 up there. But to sit down as a member of Parliament, you ain't getting that. What you get is a big swift kick in your backside, as many others have got. Ask Gypsy. But your name is Robert. You have to understand who you are. So you continue to go down that road. And watch out the case mounting against Rural Munilal. And you will defend him to the hilt. Matters not. She will defend him. But not you, Anil Roberts. The case is clear, the evidence is there. Everybody who wants to read and see it can do so. You don't have to wait for Dominic Romain to come and tell us on a Sunday. It is there for all who want to read and see. But you will never hear a word from Vishnu Raghunath, from Ralph Maraj, from all of the others, Shema Homid, all of them. Not a word. But you will hear Kamla Prasad Bissessa doubling down and protecting those who she wants to protect and who she wants in her parliament. And if we're not seeing that, that the same, she's a plagiarizer, I call her, because you know why? She copies what people do. And if she gets into office, it is exactly what Donald Trump is doing today. It's what she is going to do in order to protect herself, her friends, and those she cares about by the real treasury of Trinidad and Tobago. Our money, your money, and my money. If only don't want to believe that, but that's only business. If only don't want to do like in America and say, well, we don't want a woman to be no prime minister, to be president across there. Because what for Donald, don't mind what he do before, he mightn't do it again. And he's even worse today. Look at what is going on there and compare to what could go on here if you play fast and loose with your vote. Because exactly what is going on a daily basis, every single day, morning, noon, and night, there is some breaking news in America about what is going on. And they have an African sidekick who is saying, we have to get rid of everybody. And he is fixing himself because he has billions of dollars in what? Contract. And fixing himself. That he could afford to walk into the Oval Office, not in a jacket and tie, as he ought to, but walk in there with his little son and have the president sitting down there. What do you think is going to happen? Because Kamala Prasad decided to take 5-day weekend when she was younger. What do you think she could be taking this time? If she was taking 5-day weekends just the other day, what's she going to be doing this time? I know what's going to happen. But she is resting and inhibited and she doesn't know what's going on. Other people will be running rampant in Trinidad and Tobago. Because you know why? We would have failed to get up with lazy backside to go and vote to ensure that they stay out of office and not send our country into ruin. And we, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, it is our duty to protect our country from those unlawful kleptocrats, those who are fronting, those bandits who are fronting as a political party. We have to protect ourselves from them, protect our children from them, because they want to remove us from this society, while they have a good time. Don't be fooled. The evidence is clear. Not the rumor, not the old talk, but the evidence is clear that there are some people in this society who don't give a damn what happens in this country because they stand to benefit if the UNC, the bandit UNC, the kleptocratic UNC get into office. Fronting as a political party. And Dr. Rowley was very explicit and he explained everything for us that is happening not yesterday, not day before yesterday, it's happening since 2014. And we are seeing how come these cases are not coming to the fore and finishing. That people could afford to talk and boast that they're not behind bars. We have to be very mindful and we have to be very careful. So let's go and fret, go and listen to the plan. Have a good time. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that day is going to come when you have to stain your finger. And we have to be mindful that what you enjoy today, you may not be able to enjoy tomorrow if you fail to do what you're supposed to do to protect your country, our country, this land we love, for our children and grandchildren. Dominic, thank you extremely much for what you have explained to us today. It was very, very important that we understood and we got the information. And please, sir, continue to do so.
Yes.
Because it is important, because many of us don't read, Dominic. Many of us we don't listen, we don't hear, we are just, what do I say, bothering me, take out of my personal pocket. So it's bothering me. They thought they wouldn't affect them. But today, they're marching in the cold. 2 degrees Celsius, they're up and down the road, complaining. Because you know why? It is now beginning to affect them, the farmers, everybody. USA, Dominic, people are dying all over the world today because there's no USA to protect them. It's a measles, Dominic, in Texas. Imagine that. Measles has reared its head again in Texas. Because a fella who don't like vaccines, he vaccinated his children. He's protecting his family. He's protecting himself. He's telling you, don't vaccinate. So we have measles today in Texas. And people around the world, because of no foreign aid, are dying around the country. No food to protect children and to give children a morsel of food to eat because of US aid. They are dying today. Trinidad and Tobago, a word to the wise.